No one will care about your story until you reach the finish line. Shapfere Izinja. Because you were focused in high school, you were the top learner, top achieving person, people think you had it easy. People think, no, when I want to talk about the struggles that people who clock the need to log in and get out of the township face. For some reason, people think going from high school, university, graduate, and then first job is smooth. And they don't understand what we had to go through and sacrifice because of that. Let's talk. I am a product of Kutlwanong Pro Mets. That meant Friday, Saturday, Sunday, holiday, long weekend. I was in school. I still, in that tender age, grade 9, grade 10, 11, 12, I had family members that thought Benio Chola. In that period, I constantly had arguments with my parents who did not know better, who thought I'm lying when I say I'm going to school Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It did not make sense. So of course, the kind of dreams you have, and now I'm talking to the pupil that goes to high school right now, Ekasi. The kind of dreams you have will make you look crazy, will make you look like when you're clowning. And of course, if you are in first year, that first semester, the first visit home will make you look like when uzenza ngono. Get over it. One of the first things in university that you pick up early is your tribe. You know, there's people, yes, who live glamorous lives than you, but you also spot your tribe very well. And you now see the struggles of a black child. I speak about this in my second book, that some of us have had to look at our book allowance and not buy an iPhone because our siblings did not have a school jersey. So we needed to negotiate with the things that we wanted deep down in our hearts and the things that family back at home needed. For the duration that you are pursuing your dreams, you will look like a fool. There were moments where I had to pay publishers for the publication of my books. On the day that NSFAS entered, I was in a group chat asking for potatoes. In that moment, it made me look very silly. It made me look like I didn't know how to use money. What did the families do? They made rumors. Relatives had rumors that I was giving an old man money. No one said in 20 whenever, when I am dead, my children, if I have one, my siblings, my cousin will have to read their history from me. No one looked at it that way. Instead, people reduced it. They did what? Rounded it off to what made sense to them. To them, it looked like I'm giving a random man money. It was never that. It was a publisher for my dreams. And today, I have 3 books. That is how limited even our parents are. So when we speak about outgrowing people, it's not just the friends. It's also getting to university, coming back and realize that unfortunately you were far more conscientized than your father can ever be. You are far more conscientized than your mother can ever be. And as a result, you will constantly clash with each other because you have the audacity to dream bigger than where they see themselves. You have the audacity to want more out of life than what they have settled for. So of course, in family gatherings where children of your other cousins and your other aunts have come and gathered, you know your transcript doesn't allow you for that recess to go home. You cannot compare yourself with a restmate who, when they go home, they've got 4 bedrooms and they are the only child. They've got a study, they've got a closet, they've got all these rooms that allow them to have peace. Ni 16 again. Your transcript does not allow you to go home. Where are you gonna study? When are you gonna study? Because another thing, the first semester of your first year, your family is bragging. They can't believe you made it to Vets University. Part of the things that make them not to believe is because when you sacrificed and went to the library, they said, who's gonna wash the dishes? They still argued with you on dishes when you were writing your trial exams. So these are people who never saw it for you, that you will make it to that institution of higher learning. So you coming back, it's them having bragging rights. They will call you to come home, but darling, that institution of higher learning will not care that you have siblings, will not care that when you have your grandmother's surprise party, when they set a test, they will set it for everyone and you must be equally ready for it. What people don't understand is Tina the NSC. When you get to an institution of higher learning, there's certain modules that are revision to the IEP group, and it's the first time you see this. Integration, it was the first time I saw it, and it was a revision to the IEP group. So we are not the same. I need you to understand that even when you get into these institutions of higher learning, you are not, you don't know it all. Unfortunately, now the filter is not the classes. I'm sure in high school you had Bagwa A, where you know A is 80%. Whoever you date Gwa A, you're fine. They're not gonna break your heart. At Vets University, at Mangusutu, at Wusu, at CPUT, at TUT, there's no filters like that. Even in the academically competent people, there are still heartbreakers. As you come for your first year, there are seniors who are waiting for you as a first year because of the novelty that you carry. It's not that they care about you. So of course, they will plan parties. Housecom members from male refs will call first years to come there, and of course they'll give you attention. All of it. So your LO teacher lied to you. I unpacked this in my second book. Your LO teacher lied to you to say, no, Maufia varsity, you'll meet all these men. No, you've got the responsibility to filter out who of these men you give an opportunity to. Because unlike back then when you were grouped by your classes and you knew when you give Mongezi from 12A a chance, it's different from when you give Mandla in 12D a chance. At Vets University, at Wusu, at Fort Hare, there's no ABCD. You are all in the same class. You still need to develop the discernment to filter who's got access to you. No one talks about how UFS, Vets, UJ, Fort Hare were probably your second or third option in the institutions you wanted to go for. On your day of matric results, no, be grateful, man. At least you are going to people who are not exposed to excellence like that, will clap for anything that looks like an elevated life from where they are. Mamuketi Pakeng says, refuse to look outside and benchmark yourself around people outside, because outside the standard may be lower and you may be convinced that you're doing okay. So according to your standards, you knew very well you wanted to go to UCT. Gatle Vets for you is a second option. And people will not understand them. To them, you must be grateful. And yes, you must be grateful because it's not everyone that still makes it into Vets, but there's still the grief that you go through because you are an overachiever. People don't understand that. No one speaks about your first failure in an institution of higher learning when all you know is straight A's. No one speaks about our struggles. And unfortunately, because you get to pass through the Great Hall, you get to pass through Sarah Bartman Hall, and with your gown there, no one is ever gonna say, he went through it all. He once failed. Because you got through the end, only now people pay attention when you open your mouth. But for the duration that you were struggling with that module, no one cares. Because again, they know you as a genius. And because you're a genius, they think you will be a genius at Vets automatically. They don't think the standard is different. They don't think you are susceptible to depression. They don't think you are within pressures that are going to suffocate you and the identity you carried until this far. They don't think your beliefs are being challenged. They don't think the presence of other people in a race who are classist to you, who don't even hide their arrogance to you. They don't think because you go through all those things, they do something to your identity. The way parents are so limited, bazokubuza udepresswa yini unenesfas, udepresswa yini fridge igcwele, udepresswa yini wena ungene Vets. People now don't understand that everyone can have mental health issues. No matter how happy they look, no matter how well achieved they look, people will still want you to be grateful when you are sinking. There's people whom probably you did a course that went against your mother's wishes, your uncle's wishes. And when that course starts dribbling you, you already know you don't have an outlet. The dreams you had make your parents fear success. because the kind of success you want to bring in the house was never brought by anyone. So of course, when you do actual sciences, they will convince you otherwise. No, and when it dribbles, because it does dribble, but when it dribbles you, they will convince you, no, but why don't you do something else? Why don't you do this course? No one supports you, because when there's no one in the family who's an actual scientist, when you go through hardships, they will ask you, ubone bani who did data science, ubone bani who did information systems, ubone bani in the family. So because there's the lack of reference and they limit themselves to that, they expect you to conform. And of course, when you've reached N+1 of NSFAS and now you have to appeal for them to keep funding you, your family will not understand. When you get excluded for rest because you got an RET, return to current year of study, your parents don't understand that. When you cannot swallow that Hennessy and now you must go to dodgy races, we know them. One of them is orange. You must go to dodgy races because residences of your institution have excluded you. Parents cannot fathom that. How do you explain that you, because of your depression, you missed tutorials, you are now in the DP list? Yes, your average is 70%, but you didn't attend enough tutorials. As a result, you're not going to write that exam. How do you explain that to your parents? But these are parents who've never said to you, I am proud of you. I see you. How was your day? How was your exam? Parents who never bought that when you were still in high school to look at your timetable to say, you wrote physical sciences today. How was it? So of course you will live in isolation. Of course you will want to be in your own room, and it's not a problem. At rest, you lived in a matchbox of a room and you made it work. So now when you have to do that, it's not a problem staying in your room the whole day. But the narrative in the family, uyazibona ever since of course. So I'm trying to make you see that it is not Omandla that you outgrow. It's even the family that you grew up with. Some of us come from cities where there's a university by your city. You opted to apply and actively go to a university outside of your city. There's a problem there, but no one could pick it up. People expected you in your childlike teenagehood state to show up as a parent. You are exhausted. The reality is when you stepped on shoes that were way too big for you, what was worse was no one appreciated your efforts. They instead further complained. They instead further raised things that no, I can see the children are clean, but people who are ungrateful, people who forget that when you need to balance a chemistry equation and their children's nappies, people who fail to realize that you are busy cramming Newton's third law while rocking their baby, and when they come back, they had the audacity to be ungrateful. So pardon us for wanting better for ourselves. Pardon us for fighting for ourselves. Some people have never appealed. They've never sat in a committee where the committee says, tell us why you deserve to stay in this institution. They've never had those sort of encounters. And of course, because you knew that sort of encounter, your grandmother knowing could be the end of your grandmother, you didn't want to share that. You went through it alone because you were the type of person whom were thought or perceived to have it all figured out. No one gave you grace in your family. No one said, let us think about her. No one said, for this weekend, let her not babysit. You had to figure it out with your siblings while your parents were there, and some of them were ungrateful. So no, you don't hate ironing. Ironing is attached to the memory of your mom bringing in more clothes while you were ironing for your siblings. You don't hate washing dishes. It is attached to a memory of your father selfishly having a braai while you needed to study in that weekend for your physics paper 2 when you wrote paper 1 on Friday. And he had a braai and now you must wash those dishes. So of course, because you graduated, because you made the dean's list, because you made golden key, no one cares for that story. Instead, they think all the things they did on your way to achieving these things got you there. So pardon us for wanting better for ourselves. Sharp Firi is Zinja.